Welcome to Silent Confessions, where we reveal the most jaw-dropping secrets hidden in plain sight. In today's episode, meet Amber, a confident, independent woman who's spent years building a quiet, fulfilling life. But when her daughter's relationship with the charming Tristan starts showing cracks, everything changes. What begins as whispered tensions and unexplained shifts soon spirals into a forbidden connection that defies all expectations. Stick with us until the end, because the twists and turns of this confession will leave you questioning what you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and betrayal. Welcome to a story where every secret has its price. Hi, my name is Amber, and I'm here to confess that my son-in-law approached me because my daughter refused to do it with him, and so I did everything for him. This might sound scandalous, but relax, I'm going to share my story so you can understand how we got here. At 52, I've seen a lot, yet for the past decade my life has been quiet. I've learned to enjoy my own company, take care of my home, and keep a close bond with my daughter. Sophia is my pride and also my constant worry. For the past 5 years, Sophia has been involved with a handsome, hard-working, and good-natured guy. But lately, things haven't been going well between them. I know this because I live with her and see them both. They try to hide it, but it's impossible not to notice the absent stares, the hushed arguments behind closed doors, and the heavy silence that fills the house whenever he's around. Even though I sensed this tension, I never interfered. Sophia has always been fiercely independent and determined. I'm not one to intrude into my daughter's matters of the heart. I have my opinions, of course, but I keep them to myself. I've learned that as a mother, when your kids grow up, your role is to be there without suffocating them, to offer advice without imposing it. And so I carried on. Tristan, as I'll call him now, had always been polite with me. He used to address me formally, though I always told him he could just call me Amber or even Amy. He was respectful yet reserved, and he never opened up about the problems he was having with Sophia. And I never wanted to pry. After all, those were their issues, not mine. However, in recent weeks, things started to change. Tristan used to join us for dinner almost every day, but now he only shows up on weekends, and even then, it's never certain when he'll come. There's a heavy energy when he's around. Sophia, who had always been vivacious and outgoing, has become quiet and distant. I tried asking her if everything was all right between her and Tristan one evening while I was washing dishes and she was fiddling with her phone at the kitchen table. She kept her eyes glued to her device, though a flicker of surprise passed over her face before she quickly masked it with a casual, "Yeah, Mom, we're just going through a phase. It's normal." I agreed, even though I suspected she was hiding something. Sophia has always been proud. If she needed to vent, she'd do it in her own time. Out on the balcony, Tristan was all deep in thought without Sophia. "Hey, Tristan, you okay?" I asked. He glanced up, a bit awkward. "Hey, Miss Amber. Yeah, just need some space." I offered him a coffee to break the silence, and after a moment, he accepted. Inside, he sat quietly, staring out the window like he was carrying the weight of the world. "Sometimes talking helps," I said, setting the cup down. With a sad smile, he replied, "Thanks, but I don't want to be a burden. If you need me, I'm here." Then he shifted the convo to my work and the local scene, yet something in his tone kept bugging me. Soon, Tristan began to visit more often, not always to see Sophia. Sometimes he'd show up when she was at work or out with friends, and he'd just sit in the living room, chatting with me. It seemed he craved the company more than any specific reason for being there. I didn't see any harm in that. After all, he was going through a crisis and perhaps just needed someone to talk to. One evening, Tristan remarked, "He's acting so strangely, isn't he? He comes over and barely talks. Maybe he's just trying to figure things out. Have you told him how you feel?" Sophia brushed it off, saying, "It doesn't matter, Mom." That was the first time she'd been so direct about their relationship, and my heart ached for her. I didn't want to see her in pain, but I knew there was little I could do. That same night, muffled voices from her room told me that a serious argument had erupted. Tristan left shortly afterward, slamming the door as he crossed the living room. I couldn't help but watch him silently, and Sophia didn't leave her room until the next day. I went to bed that night with a mix of worry and fatigue. The tension between them was seeping into the whole house, and I couldn't tell how long it would last. Still, I maintained a neutral stance, focusing on my own space and activities. After all, life is full of ups and downs, and everyone has their own battles. That evening began like any other, but soon spiraled into something I never imagined. Sophia and Tristan arrived together, and the atmosphere was heavy the moment they stepped through the door. I was in the kitchen finishing the dishes when I began to catch snippets of conversation coming from her room. The door had been left open. Tristan's voice steadily grew louder until, almost unintentionally, I overheard part of it. "You never want anything," Sophia said clearly, frustrated. "It's always just an excuse, always laziness. I can't take it anymore." My heart skipped a beat. Even though it wasn't really my business, those words struck me deeply. Sophia murmured something else, but her voice was so soft I couldn't understand. Tristan, however, wasn't ready to drop the topic. "Isn't everything okay?" he continued. "How do you expect me to feel when someone I love starts to feel old, as if even a simple touch has become a burden?" My hand, holding a plate, froze mid-motion. Suddenly, I found myself torn between the urge to intervene and the impulse to stay out of it. After all, this was their conversation. But it was impossible not to reflect on what I'd just heard. I've always been a tactile person, believing that physical contact is one of the purest forms of connection between two people. I've always loved going out with men. Indeed, I still do. So to hear my daughter, so young, treat him like he's just a job or something trivial shocked me. How could she be so indifferent about something so essential? Especially with a man like Tristan, young, handsome, and above all, respectful. Even though I wasn't directly involved in their relationship, I had always looked upon him favorably. Tristan possessed a captivating mix of confidence and gentleness that made him hard to ignore. Any woman would be lucky to have him by her side. And yet, there was my daughter, seemingly oblivious. I snapped back to reality when I heard a door slam. Tristan had just left the bedroom with determined steps, but before he reached the living room, he paused, turned away, and took deep, steadying breaths as if trying to compose himself. I froze, hoping he wouldn't realize I'd heard everything. When our eyes finally met, I asked, "What's going on, Tristan?" in a tone that barely masked my shock. "I'm sorry, Amber," he said calmly, though his voice still trembled with emotion. "I don't want to cause any problems. I'm just going through a really tough time." "I understand," I said gently. "Sometimes it helps to talk things through." He nodded, lost in thought, then ran a hand through his hair and sighed. "It's complicated. I love Sophia, but some things just aren't working. I don't know what to do anymore." I wanted to offer comfort, but I realized that no words could ease his pain. So I remained silent, letting him vent. After thanking me, he retreated to the couch, absorbed in his phone. Sophia stayed hidden in her room for the rest of the evening, determined to avoid any interaction, while Tristan remained in quiet solitude until the next morning. At dawn, with the sun still timidly hiding behind clouds, Tristan knocked on my door. I was in bed, trying to distract myself with a book, when I was startled to see him so early. His serious gaze and hesitant posture made it clear he needed to talk. "Amber, may I speak with you for a moment?" he whispered. "Of course, Tristan. Is something wrong, dear?" I asked as I sat on the edge of the bed. He took a deep breath, gathering his courage, and after a pause began, "I'm here because I don't know what else to do. I love Sophia, but it feels like we're in entirely different worlds." I looked away, unsettled. A man craves connection, passion. That's essential for me, and it should be for her too. His words were raw, laced with frustration and despair. As he spoke, I felt a mix of compassion and discomfort. Tristan was opening up to me in a way I never expected, and no matter how hard I tried not to judge, I couldn't ignore the weight of his feelings. "I try to understand, but it's like talking to a wall," he admitted. "He says he's tired, that he doesn't feel it anymore, and I'm losing control. I don't want to give up, but I also don't want to spend my life feeling suffocated, always begging for something." "I'm sorry you're going through this," I said softly, "but sometimes we have to find a middle ground, a solution that works for both of us." He attempted to keep the tone neutral, and I began to say, "But," when his voice wavered. "Yes," he interjected, his heart seemingly pounding for no reason. "You're different. You've always treated me with kindness, with care. Sometimes I think..." He hesitated, as if afraid to finish the sentence. The air grew heavy, charged with an unexpected excitement. Suddenly, I realized he was closer than I'd ever imagined. I felt his hand gently touch mine, an almost innocent, hesitant gesture that carried a deep meaning. "Tristan," I tried to speak, but he silenced me with a kiss, an unexpected, desire-filled kiss. For a moment I hesitated, battling the realization that what we were doing was wrong. But as the kiss deepened, I felt not just warmth, but an all-consuming fire. It was as if every barrier crumbled, as if the world beyond us ceased to exist. Without thinking, I returned his kiss, and it intensified until we found ourselves in my bedroom, wrapped in each other's embrace. Tristan's passion was wild and almost uncontrollable, and I surrendered to that energy. He explored me with an intensity I hadn't felt in years. Every touch, every caress reignited something within me that I didn't even know had been dormant. He became so aroused that he began kissing me everywhere. And as I grew more excited, I couldn't help but remember my daughter, Sophia, and what I was doing with her boyfriend. But before I could protest, he reached my little flower and pleased me in a way that sent shivers through my entire body. He knew exactly how to do it, and then he took me completely. Each thrust was imbued with an incredible intensity. He was huge and masterful with his size. I kept wondering why Sophia didn't feel the same attraction. What a sexy man he was. I was screaming like a madwoman, and then, unable to hold back any longer, he climaxed, but not before pulling out, splattering his release all over my stomach. Outside, the day continued as normal, but for us, time had stopped. Tristan was gentle, devoted, and I felt desired like never before. Every moment with him was a mix of intense pleasure and overwhelming guilt, yet it was impossible to stop. Then, like a splash of icy water, we heard the front door open. Sophia had returned from work. Tristan and I exchanged a desperate glance. He quickly started dressing, gathering his scattered clothes. "Get to the living room," I whispered, trying to think fast. I took a deep breath and forced a smile despite the pounding in my heart. The guilt weighed on me, yet a residual rush of adrenaline made it impossible to ignore what had just transpired, a secret that had to be kept at any cost. After that day, something inside me changed. What happened between Tristan and me wasn't just a fleeting moment of desire. It shattered all the barriers I never imagined could be broken. The guilt lingered like a shadow, but a new fire had been ignited inside me that I couldn't ignore. It wasn't long before he came looking for me again. One evening, while Sophia was busy at work, I was in the kitchen distracted by house chores when I heard the door open. I looked up to see him standing there with a smile that was half guilty, half provocative. My heart raced as I sensed something was about to happen. "Miss Amber, can we talk?" he asked, though the sparkle in his eyes said more than his words. He approached slowly, and before I could utter a word, he grabbed my hand. "I can't stop thinking about what happened," he confessed. "You touched me in a way I can't explain." I tried to resist, but the truth was, I couldn't shake that moment from my mind. His closeness, the warmth of his touch, it enveloped me so completely that pulling away seemed impossible. On impulse, I suggested, "Tristan, what we're doing is wrong, but if you and Sophia really aren't okay, maybe we can find a way to ease the tension." My words came out with worry but determination, and he understood immediately what I meant. We made a pact. Whenever Sophia didn't want or wasn't willing, she could come to me, and I'd give you what you need. But there was one non-negotiable condition. You must never break away from her, and she must never find out. "I promise she'll never know," he said sincerely. "I just want you to understand how much this means to me. So, thanks for sticking with us through this wild ride on Silent Confessions. If Amber's secret left you on the edge of your seat, then smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping confessions. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you're the first to catch our next scandalous reveal. Share this video if you're ready to join the conversation, and follow us on social media for behind-the-scenes exclusives. Stay curious, stay bold, and as always, keep your secrets safe. See you in the next confession.